Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim,
And I'm Tia.
and today we are going to talk about something that is so needed, but so hard to do, right? It's one of those easier said than done kind of things.
Definitely.
But before we do talk about that, I will read the quote before we jump in. So the quote is peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart.
Mm.
And that's by an unknown. And so we're thinking about calling this protect your peace. And I can't take credit for that. I have to give credit where credit is due. And so I've talked before on podcasts about my favorite Peloton instructor, Robin Artzone. And so yesterday she was talking about that protect your peace. And so I was like, oh, I really like that. And this is really, a hard one because in the midst of a storm, it's so challenging to, as the quote says, to still be calm in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When there's a shitstorm going on, it's really hard when there's noise, there's trouble, and there always is, right?
Always.
It's that other saying of pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. It's kind of similar. There's always pain. There's always hard work. Butterflies are always, or the caterpillar is always trying to crawl out of the chrysalis. I mean, anywhere you look in nature, hard work is happening, right? Storms are happening in nature all the time.
Correct.
And it's about how to still be calm in your heart at the same time. How are you with that? Is that hard for you?
It's gotten easier. I mean, that's a common theme, right? When we talk here, it's like,
it is a very
better.
Common theme.
It's gotten easier. But does it mean it's always accessible? Absolutely not. So I would say I do a much better job of not getting hooked into that storm that's going on or chaos going on around me.
Yeah.
Or I get hooked in. So there's three scenarios for me personally.
Okay.
And so most of the time I don't get hooked in. Some of the time I get hooked in, then I notice I'm hooked in, and I have the ability now to create that space to be like, oh, you got hooked in. Calm yourself, not your monkey, not your storm, or whatever the situation is, or even if I am involved, that finding the way to calm my nervous system so I don't escalate and create more storm. So finding that peace within, quieting my nervous system. Or on those occasions where I do get hooked and I do stay and I'm swirling, more often than not, I can unhook it before the storm is done. But if I, by chance, I stay all the way to the end, then I go through our process that we've developed, and look within, figure out what's going on. Oh, and then if I need to, I'm able to, once I'm calm, really make a repair. But it is an amazing thing though, to be witnessing the storm, knowing we're now hooked and in it. And then almost like, I don't know if this is a weird visual, but not really. So you think of the hurricane and the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm in the storm. Then I create that eye of the hurricane where everything is still and I'm able to go within and unhook. So then the storm passes, but I'm not like swirling with it as it continues.
Wow. That's really good. And do you use any particular tools or anything that helps you get there? Or like, is it just kind of happens automatically for you?
Now it's more like it just happens just because that muscle has been built. But I think it's a great question. For me, a lot of it is I notice the angst, so it's the body sensations are telling me usually even more, or it's the thought of like you, the other, the situation, so I'm blaming external or the person or the situation. So body's telling me that, or the thought, I catch it. And then it's like, oh, here you are again. And so I feel, and I think I've said this, I have like both going on at the same time. And it's like, okay, come on, adult self, come on, take over, take over. And then eventually it's really that breathing for me is huge. And placing my hand on my heart really helps me ground, or energetically I'll ground myself and then I can find a little bit more stillness. But it's really first and foremost for me, the actual action steps are really getting my nervous system at least a little calmer and getting my frontal cortex back online.
Yeah, that
helps the heart.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
What about you?
I have so many thoughts. One is that using the analogy still of the storm, I like that. And it depends for me, if we're using a hurricane, it depends if it's a hurricane 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you brought
right. So
yeah, totally.
It's like, and I feel like right now I'm probably in a hurricane 3 or 4, and so I feel like when I'm in the hurricane force, it's really hard to access what I need to access to like get grounded, or I even forget. And, some of the tools, I just forget and I can't access it as easily as if it's a hurricane 1, or a tropical storm. A tropical storm, I can still do, as you said, I can, notice like, okay, and I can use my tools. I can use all my tools, and I can know that like it's very quiet, or I can, in the background, I can, the peace is there. I know it is there. There's the reassurance, like, okay, everything is okay. It'll be okay. It's harder when I'm in a hurricane 4. It's harder. Although I can still kind of hear it a little bit. There's that little like, voice of this will be okay. And sometimes I can access my tools and sometimes I can't. And like last night, I actually woke up like very early, 5 a.m, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And so I actually was able to call upon, and Tara Brach does an amazing meditation, heart meditation, where you call, I think she's like, says you're calling on the beloved. And the beloved can be an actual person, a person who passed or is deceased. It can be just energy. It can be whatever. And it can, in whatever way you reach out. Now, I've learned through the practice how to reach out to my, I guess, adult self is probably what it, and so there's this like, and again, I use it with our process as well, in terms of like, what does my wounded self, my hurt self, my child self need in the moment? And then this wise, loving adult self can come in and I can feel it. It's a feeling, a felt sense that I have of, it's okay. Like, it's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. Right. Because when I'm in any of the storms, hurricane 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm losing my peace, as we're talking about, it's my child self that is struggling the most. It's the inner child that's afraid, that's maybe scared, sad, whatever.
Right.
So, and then what helps to, as you said, ground or bring me back to like, it's okay, is this adult self and this loving presence. So I was able to access that for a little bit, like last night. And then, like I said, and then I wake up and the day starts and I forget all about it, Right. And like, in terms of the quote, when there's no noise, trouble, or hard work, like, I know that I clearly need to slow down. We talked about this on one of our other recordings, and rest more. And man, this energy that wants to keep pushing, it's definitely the perfection mask. It's definitely the competent self. There's this energy part of me, self of me, that is just not allowing me to rest.
Yeah.
And that's the inner child. That's the part that the adult self has to come in and say, it's okay. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. Everything's fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Right.
Again, one day at a time, one moment at a time.
Totally.
So I can still access that a little bit, but much harder to access in Hurricane 4. force.
Yeah. And it makes sense why it would be, right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of that, like the voice of rest, doing that can help prevent. I mean, sometimes they're just hurricane force, right? I mean,
Yeah.
just life throws a whole bunch at you at once. And other times we manufacture a hurricane force because we haven't been resting
Yes.
along the way. So recognizing, okay, this is just crisis situation. I just need to get through this. And if I get hooked in, I get hooked in. Then, when you have a break, take care of yourself when you notice.
Yeah.
And then you get hooked back in, whatever. But having that compassion for self, like it's okay. And then recognizing also, is this a situation where I created a hurricane for because of not taking care of myself, or not manifesting, but manufacturing a bigger story than what actually is happening? And then how can we learn from that? So when we're in a 4, it's always a learning opportunity. So we don't need to beat ourselves up.
Right.
One other thought I had too is like removing yourself from the storm. I do that as well. That's another, sometimes
how does that look for you when you remove yourself from the storm? How does that look?
So, if it's another person involved, I may be like, hey, I just need to, before I say something I'm going to regret, I'm just going to go calm myself and I'll be back and make sure, you reconnect. So mostly that, or if it's not like indirect with the person, we've talked about before, just getting outside, getting some fresh air, going for a short walk. I mean, there's so many different ways, because sometimes we need physical space to find the calm, because sometimes we can't find it when we're just taking in all of that external stuff in. Right. And so there's never just one way, right?
Yeah, there's a number of ways. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love, because what we are really talking about is our little process that we're, working on. So I love how different parts of that are showing up. You're just mentioned like some self-care. And so we're, we teach about self-care and, feeling feelings, allowing for feelings, honoring feelings, and watching our thoughts. Like you said, sometimes we can create that with our thinking. So that's a big piece of it. Yeah. I just love that we have this process that, we'll talk more about in the weeks to come, but, it's really a great tool that's been assisting me greatly lately.
It is, and not to be so mysterious, but we have this, what is it? 8-step process, of which underneath each of those steps. So how we talked about, like, sometimes you need to remove yourself. Sometimes you need to watch your thoughts, feel your feelings, all of these things. There's all these tools under each of those steps. And as you go through it and you continue to learn and evolve and take another layer, and you're ready to take in another piece, right? Because we can't take in all the information all at once. And so recognizing like, oh, there's really 10 tools under each step, but right now I only know one, and I'm going to really get to know one and, wire that in our brain and our nervous system. And then I'm going to add another tool, because it's a process. And then as you build the tools within each step, you're able to discern even more. Do I need to remove myself? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to ground? Do I need to move my body? Do I need to look at my thoughts and be like, oh, is that really true? Oh, actually, you know what? I need to cry. I need to get this. I need to feel the ickiness. And then I'm going to be able to navigate the storm, because I have more calm in my heart, because I released and acknowledged all that pain that was showing up. I mean, there's so much we could talk about it forever.
There is so much. And you're right. Thank God we're doing it just little steps, baby steps, because it is too much to take in all at once. But you're right. Like yesterday, I did check in with myself several times, and what do I need? What do I need? And you know what, throughout the day, it was different. I did exercise. That was one thing, it changed. And then another part of the day, I was just a lot of laughter and silliness with my daughter. So, that was good to laugh and just be playful. We were being playful. And then there was another time when I did do the Tar Brach meditation and the tears were flowing. So that needed to, so
Yeah.
in one day, look at all the tools that I use, but I kept checking in with my body over and over. I kept checking in with myself. What does my body need? What does my mind need? What does my spirit need?
Love it.
And it was just check in all day long.
I love that. And I love that you reiterated it's not always what we might think it should be, what someone tells us
Right.
it should be. It's we only know what we need in that moment. And the only way we're going to find out is to practice tuning in, listening, trusting what comes up, and doing that practice, because we don't always know it in our head.
And I have to say, I never used to do this. I had no clue about this kind of stuff. I never checked in with myself. And that's why it does take time to learn all this. And it is a process. I'm grateful that I can do this with myself. And for anyone out there who's maybe thinking like, I don't do this, I don't know how to do this, I hear you. That's where I was my whole life. I had no idea. It was literally that saying of a chicken running around with its head cut off. I was just from the neck up. I was reacting to everything and had no idea how to check in with myself and how to do this way of being.
Right. And also knowing, once I started learning, once others we know started learning, we learn something. And then there's always another layer. I love Dr. Shafali used a quote recently. Wisdom is depth. I think that's what she said.
Yeah.
Right. So we first learn the wisdom and we think we get it. And then we revisit it months later, years later. And it's like, oh, wow, I missed that. I thought I understood that piece really well and was applying it. And now I realize there's this other layer, so that's the beauty of this, is like, we can learn these foundational steps, but it never ends. It's just creating more depth, more understanding, more healing, more growth, more nourishing of self. And that is why it's so powerful.
I feel that. I feel like how it has gotten deeper and deeper and deeper, and I've grown and grown and grown. And it's exciting to me to know that it'll continue to deepen even more. The healing, the growth, the learning, the wisdom. Totally. That's why bring it on, baby. Bring it on.
Be careful what you ask for.
I know. As I say here, not sure if I have COVID for the second time. So yes, wait a second, universe. Hold on.
What I mean is bring on more depth of wisdom.
Yes.
So understanding, not crash course.
Yes, I know. Yes.
It's funny.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, what a great way to end it, with a little more laughter and a little more levity. So that was a great way to wrap up this episode. So
thank you.
If you liked what you heard, give us a thumbs up. We always appreciate your support, and have a great week.
Yeah. And take care of yourself and ride the storm. Find the peace. All right. Take care.
Absolutely.
Bye.